and you've seen him, he's been moderating a lot of panels. But I'd like to welcome to the stage right now our cast and our creative director. So first off, we're going to have Bill Davis come out, who's our creative director. Bill Davis. Ellen doesn't have this problem. And then in no particular order, other than the order that's written down for me to do it, I'd like to bring out Shannon Purser. Is it Gatan, right? Gatan? Gatan? Gaten.
Yes,
sorry, Gaten Matarazzo. David Harbour. Caleb McLaughlin. Randy Havens. And Catherine Dyer. And with that, I'm going to turn over to Alexander.
All right, thank you so much. Let's give our cruise host a big round of applause. And let's give these guys another round of applause. They flew to Mexico to come talk to you guys. And this is crazy. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for coming to Fan2Sea, the Comic-Con cruise. A year ago, nobody knew what this show was. They had no idea, and now you're on a boat in Mexico. What has this, that sounds really creepy, by the way. What has this journey been like for you guys so far this year? Insane, I imagine, right?
Let's ask Barb first. Barb?
Okay. All right, David. It's been a whirlwind. I mean, totally unexpected, and I'm just so thankful for the way that you guys have responded to the show, and I think we're all just very proud of it, and thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, what about for the rest of you guys? I mean, particularly for the adult actors, you guys have had a ton of experience. What was it like seeing the reaction to this show, say, versus other projects you've worked on?
It's crazy. Just when I heard my name, Caleb McLaughlin, and you guys just started, it was like, woo! I'm like, whoa, okay, cool. So yeah, it's just all the love that we've been getting. So yeah, it's been awesome.
Most of the reaction to my work throughout the years has been that most of it's been terrible. So my career has been very disappointing. So to have something that people actually like is very unnerving to me. And I wish that you guys would cut it out. It's enough with liking the show because it doesn't jive with my vibe.
Yeah, this is the first thing I did that anyone ever saw. So it was great to have more than 5 viewers.
And this is the first time I've ever been considered a badass. Thank you.
Well, let's take it back to the beginning a little bit. So when you guys were signing up to the show, I actually want to turn it over to Bill for a second, because the art direction and the look of the show are part and parcel with the whole thing. I mean, they're unavoidable. The acting is wonderful, the direction is wonderful and everything, but it feels like a show that came out of the 80s or a movie that came out of the 80s. So how were you approached for the project? What happened? How did you come on board? And actually, for those who don't know, what does an art director do?
The art director is responsible for everything that's not an actor. So everything you see on screen, whatever happens, if it's wrong or if it's not there, it's my fault. If it's right and if it's there, usually I get a nod. They went, okay, it's fine. That's kind of it. So I hardly ever see these people. My work on the sets that they're on is done by the time they get there. So my work is mostly invisible. Occasionally I'll show up on set, usually just to open the set and make sure everything's going well. If you see me on the set in midday, something has terribly gone wrong and I'm there to fix that sort of problem. I think the only time I spent any time on set was watching David shower one day.
Everybody came that day.
But aside from that, most of these
Opened the set to the public that day. We just dragged people off the streets. You were there that day?
But for me, you know, the day before I started this, I was on the last season of Under the Dome. So I went kind of from the bottom, you know, much higher. But you don't know when you start. So you really don't know. It was a great script. It was really interesting. Our initial discussions were the kids are going to have to really be great and really sell it because it's the kids.
And the adults have to suck as hard as possible. No, you guys.
But when you start seeing
did our
the
best.
dailies, and you go, this is going to be great. It's going to be really great. The chemistry between the kids is really good. You know, we see it in the office when they're just running around doing kid things, but it really shows on screen.
Well, let's turn to the kids. Dustin, for you, when did you come on board and what did you think about this? I'm particularly curious for you guys because, as far as I know, unless you have, you know, Benjamin Button disease or something, you didn't grow up in the 80s. So jumping into this, what was that experience like?
Well, it was definitely, I gotta say, out of my comfort zone, because I was never in that zone. So, but it was definitely very different from all of the other stuff that I did, because I started, Caleb also, we both started on Broadway. Yeah, you were on Broadway as well. You were Broadway guys right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I had done that, and I had done.
You've lived in other time periods on Broadway, right? You were in like the 1700s
I
of
was
France,
in the
right?
1800s
Singing
of
about a
France
barricade.
and like the 1990s of Australia. So yeah, that was fun. But I did one episode of The Blacklist, and that's all the screen time that I've ever had. And I go into this show, and they're like, yeah, you're gonna have to be this kid from 1983 riding your bike without your cell phone, without anything that you do now, and you're gonna have to act like this is totally normal. I'm like, let's do it. And we did it. I mean, like, the show came out great, and I think that, you said it was like all us, but I mean, like, we couldn't have done it without anybody. Like, our job, a lot of people don't get this, is to listen to what people tell us to do. That's what an actor does. And a lot of people give us so much credit, but really, the people that do most of the work is everyone behind the scenes. So really, we have to give credit to all of them.
Since you guys do have all this stage experience, when are we going to see Stranger Things live on stage?
Right now.
I would say
Demogorgon
probably,
dance ready for you. Sorry, go ahead, please. I'm interrupting. I'm very large and loud and I interrupt. I'm sorry.
You spoiled the surprise for them.
We can.
No, we have to dance now. No,
Thanks.
Could you repeat the question?
It wasn't a real question, to be fair. We'll move on to Catherine. I'm curious, you mentioned this at the beginning, but you're a monosyllabic badass.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So what did you put into that character? What did you take out of that character? How do you approach somebody like that?
It's just who I am. It was, I've been asked that a few times, and it was really on the page. Instinctively, I don't know why or how, but there's something that I connected to. That's not a good thing to say, is it? That doesn't bode well for who I am. But the writing was so good that I understood intuitively exactly what they wanted or didn't want. And I just approached it very quietly and very calmly. This woman is black and white, no emotion. She had a mission and it needed to be completed. Period.
I mean, I think one of the great things about your performance is she's a really good actress. I mean, when she shows up to that Benny situation, you guys have all seen the show, right? I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but she shows up as a social worker to help this young girl, and then you pull out that gun, and that like transition is it's certainly, you know, she's a very good actress on top of being such a badass. So that's like, you know, really complicated.
I think part of what got me cast was this look, because you know you don't normally put a gun in the hand. You know, I look so straight and normal, and so I think that was a big part of it. And then that I could turn it on and pull out the gun. And I have to say it was fun. I had lessons how to shoot a gun because I'm not really a gun person. I know, right? Am I sick?
Did you shoot blanks for that gun? Was that a
Nothing came out.
Yeah, but it was a blank.
Yeah. And I was very nervous about it. It wasn't comfortable aiming a gun, especially that size, at a person's head. You know, and then when I shot, it was at an X on the wall. But yeah, it was a little harrowing, but fun.
Cool. Randy, I'm curious to hear from you. One of my favorite things about the show is it does have this mythology that opens up and grows as it goes along, and we'll get to this, and I'm sure you can't talk about it at all, but certainly grows a lot in that last episode. But a lot of the explanation of the mythology is on you. So what are those exposition scenes like? How do you put a little life in them?
You know, as an Atlanta actor, I've done a lot of exposition in movies and TV. Like, no, you're the guy that just explains it. And so you try to find the truth of it. And I think for Mr. Clark, he was such a well-written character that you knew where he was coming from. Like, he loves these kids so much that he'd just do anything for them. And I was able to sort of use that to make that dialogue not so, you know, like cut and dry. And I think it could have been done in a way where it's like, oh, well, this guy's talking science, this is so boring. But I tried to, just for myself, be as excited as I could be about the things that I was saying. And the reason that I'm excited is because these kids are excited about the stuff, and I want them to feel like comfortable, and I want them to learn. So I think that's sort of the base. That was like the seed that I planted, was this guy just wants these kids to sort of feel accepted in their nerdiness.
I want to talk about Randy's performance for a second, because I love Randy's performance so much.
David, shower me.
Isn't it amazing that he's on like a hot date with this like really cute Asian girl? And they're watching the thing and everything, and he's like kind of into it. But then Gaten gets him on the phone and wants to talk science, and you see his eyes like light up. I love that. You love science. You love science more than ladies.
So much. Even when he's on the date, he's like, well, let's just nerd out for a minute. That's enough of plastic and bubble.
Teacher of the year.
Caleb, one of my favorite shots in the show is when you get knocked clear across the screen. What was it like filming that
That
day?
was super fun. Even though that scene was kind of intense, it was still super fun and freezing. And because it was like 5 different shots of it. It was green screen. They're outside. The first shot was I was dragged on the ground in like -0 degrees, and I'm like, yikes, this hurts. But it was super fun, definitely. But get by a rope, and then I was thrown onto the ground with like a pad on my back. So I did all my stunts. Yeah, and then there was a green screen where we were inside this studio lot, and not inside the studio lot, inside one of the buildings, and I was swimming back with all these, what do you call it? Harness, yes, harness, sorry, brain fart, and yeah, it was fun.
David, arguably, you had, I think, the biggest character arc in the show. You started, we have mostly adults here, right? As a dick, and then grew and changed, and we learned so much about Sheriff Hoffer over the course of it. Did you know that going in, or was that something you discovered as you went through the scripts?
No, I knew that. I mean, I couldn't have played it that way, sort of without that. In a way, it's one of the great things about a scripted series where you know where you're going in the 8th episode. So you can actually lay in things in the beginning that you know will resolve in a certain way. Like one of the things that I love that I get to do in the show is like the first scene with Gabe, Caleb, and Finn, I'm just angry at like children. Like, and for a leading character, like being irrationally angry at children is like the most repellent thing you could possibly do as a human being. So like, you know, you can't really do that as a lead character unless you know that it's going to pay off in terms of his pain about losing his own daughter. And so of course, like anytime he's around children, he just doesn't want to be around them. He just has these irrational feelings and these, you know, he can't control them, and that's why he pops pills and does all this stuff. But it's so great to know that that's where you're going, so you can start him unapologetically and unsentimentally that way. Because what I love about when people live tweet when they watch the show is they'll be on like episode 2 and they'll be like, I hate Chief Hopper, what's the big deal with Chief Hopper? Like please, like this guy's a douche. And then by episode 4, they're like, if Chief Hopper dies, I'm suing Netflix. Like, so much. And you can't really, you know, a lot of times when you have a leading character, sometimes actors will take the edge off at the edge because they don't know that it's going to pay off, so they have to be sympathetic to an audience. But I think the great thing about Hopper is, like, you can make him as much of a jerk and a womanizer and an alcoholic and not caring about this kid and all this stuff, because I knew that in the end he is a beautiful human being who like is just broken in ways that are very human. So yeah, that was, I couldn't have done that without the whole arc of it, which we did.
Dustin, for you, now I know Billy Bobby Brown, she gets Eggo waffles all the time. Are people constantly handing you pudding?
Yes. I've actually surprisingly never been given pudding.
Guys,
yes, I
you have a
know.
mission.
I was always told
Gotta
like.
find some on this ship.
Yay. But yes, I have been told. It's like, do you really like chocolate pudding? It's like, no. Of course, who doesn't like chocolate pudding? Yes, but it's a question that I get all the time. I've actually never been given pudding though, and I'm waiting for the day to come where finally someone gives me pudding.
All right, guys, you have a mission tonight. Sorry about all the pudding you're about to get. Also, there's so many moments that have been gift and tumbled and non-stop from the show, but the one that I've seen probably pass around the most is you shouting, do you guys know the line? Do you know what I'm going to say? There we go. Thank you.
That one, I shout a lot in the show. In real life too, my family, like a lot of them shout. Very loud people.
Did you know that was going to be a moment when you guys were filming that, or did that surprise you?
When we were doing the table read, they were saying, oh yeah, Gaten, episodes 5 and 6, you're gonna have a lot of good lines. I'm like, great. And that's all they told me. And so then we sit down and we're doing the lines, and that line comes up, and they're like, and they told me, they're like, prepare, like, when the scene happens with the cliff and when there's the knife up to your neck, make sure you shout. Like, I never thought I would have that conversation in my life. But I finally did that line, and I did shout it, and it stuck. It did, yes, just like that in the table read. I didn't say the line properly, but I yelled it.
I taught him everything he knows. I'm joking.
Shannon, Barb is dead. We know that. Sorry, guys.
Sorry, everybody.
She's so
But
good.
you have played Barb so much after that, and people have connected with Barb on this really deep emotional level.
Thanks, everybody.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think people connected with Barb and hooked into Barb so much from the show?
Okay, like, for example, when you're watching a scary movie and you see them, like, going into the creepy house in the middle of the night, you're like, don't do that, don't go into the creepy house. Or, you know, they, like, say, oh, who's there? You know, and you're like, they're not gonna tell you, they're a serial killer. I mean, I think everybody kind of feels that way at some point, like, they're sort of the friend who has to sort of tell it like it is. And I think Barb was really that girl, you know, she was...
Sorry. This is why you come out cruises.
watching a dream come true right now. It's really beautiful.
Did you have more?
You wish.
Yeah, but I think
Thank
she's
you.
kind of the quintessential like third wheel friend who tells it straight and is kind of like the mom of their friend group, and I relate to that very personally, and I think a lot more people did than I expected to. So I'm really thankful for you guys, because I don't think I would be where I am now without you guys and with how you took to us.
Can I just say, we all had a Barb. We all had a Barb. I mean, we did. We all had that good friend who say, I don't think you should do that. Don't worry about it.
No,
I'll be
it's fine. It's not fine. It's never fine. Stay home. Do your schoolwork.
I do have.
And also, like, when you're a nerd and like your friend becomes popular in like
You're like,
sophomore year, and they ditch you because you're too much of a nerd. Like I was like that too, right? Okay, maybe just me.
No, David. I didn't have that.
I do have a story about you that you don't know. I was standing behind Matt and Ross, the Duffer Brothers. It must have been your first day in the school where you doing seemed just walking down the hall. I think that was the first thing you shot, wasn't it?
Well, I think it might have been the scene where I was in the car from the party, but that was close.
But it was this kind of the first day, and there's the kids are coming, and there's all the kind of cross blocking and stuff like that, and they're watching the monitor, and they're looking at each other, and they lean over and go, "We have to kill it, right?" And then there's like this second that Matt goes, "Yeah," because he's like running, he's spooling the plot through his head, and because he's like, "She's really good. This is really good." So
I'm about to cry up here.
Yeah.
So nice.
Barb lives, you guys.
That's my head.
She lives in our hearts.
There you go. We're going to get to your guys' questions in a second. What? No one does.
Right?
There
Stranger things
you
happen,
go.
right?
So Justin and Pete, can you guys raise your hands so everybody can see you are? Justin and Pete are going to be running up and down the aisles, taking your guys' questions. So you can just raise your hands, and they will come to you. If you are up on the balcony, bad choices, I'm very sorry. But while they're doing that, a couple of quick questions for you guys. First of all, who is harder to work with, Winona Ryder or the Demigorgon? I'm kidding. I know she's great, right?
No one even picked up on
She's a wonderful person. What was it like working? I mean, I know the entire rest of the cast isn't here, but what was it like bringing you guys together?
I'm in love with Winona Ryder. I'm in love with Winona Ryder. I will tell you a funny story about Winona Ryder. We're in the Upside Down. This is funny, just related to Caleb's like stunt stuff. We're in the Upside Down at the end of, like in episode 8, we go in, we put on those suits, and we like walk around and find Will. And there was a lot of us just walking around in these suits. And the suits were not that complicated. And we did have one moment on set where Winona had a suit on and was like, turned to me and she was like, "Oh my God, I've never done an action movie before." I was like, well, okay. Like, walking around in the suit with like action.
So you guys are you shooting season 2 right now? You are? All right.
Let's talk about the first 5 minutes. You ready? I'm not gonna.
But me and Gaten can say something. We're older.
And that's true.
What's crazy about this, I mean, going back to the beginning, we were talking about you went into the first season of a show nobody had any idea about. Now your second season, you're going to a show nobody can talk about. So what can you tell us about season 2 other than the dead folks you guys are in?
You know, Netflix has snipers trained on our position at all times.
Is there more pressure
Yeah,
going
I
into
can
season 2?
say. Well, we start. It's a year later in the story, right? And you're like, wait a minute. It's all sort of tied up. Like, why do it? Why do season 2, right?
It's awesome!
It's all what?
Awesome!
Oh, because it's awesome. Yeah, we agree. But we still have to justify like why we're doing it. Like, I agree, it's awesome, but we have to have a story. So it's a year later, and so there are several things that happened last year. Like Will has come back. There are certain people in the town that know what happened, and then certain people that don't know what happened. And so there's a lot of fallout with who knows what. We do deal with the justice for Barb idea that Barb does not come back, but Barb lives on, and the questions that and the feelings that Nancy has that no one ever cares about her friend Barb are very much present in the beginning of the season. And the other thing is, in the Hawkins lab, like all you really saw was me and Winona come out with Will. We cut to like a month later, you see me get in the car with those guys and you see the Ego box, and so you know that there is something happening there. But the Hawkins still the lab, like the rift hasn't been closed. So there's still something there that we have to deal with. So, and it's a year later. And also we have Will with the slug monster. So Will is dealing with issues with slug monsters, like really bad prilosec problems.
Didn't we all in middle school? Let's be real.
All right, very cool, you guys.
I'll give you guys a Mr. Clark spoiler for season 2.
Yay!
He spends the entire season trying to scrub Demogorgon off his chalkboard.
So sad. Can we get this guy some cleaner from somewhere on the ship? Bring that up? No? All right, where is Justin? Justin is over there with a question. Say your name and what is your question?
Hi, I'm Sam. Do you guys have a method for acting? Like, how do you guys get into character?
Sam? Where are you, Sam? Oh.
Hi.
Hi!
Stand up.
I have a very specific method.
Hi, Sam.
You have great hair.
Thank you. I'm trying to be an actor too, so I'm just wondering how you get into school for it.
I mean, I study acting still today. Like, I take an acting class in New York. I study basically the American method way of acting, which is Lee Strasberg, which is derived from Stanislavski, but this guy Lee Strasberg came over with a group theater in the 40s and then started his own studio. And it's based on, basically the principle is just that, like, you have a character and then you have you, right? So like, I can't react to things like kids going missing. Like, they have no value for me personally because I don't have that experience. So I have to find something personal in my life that I can relate almost metaphorically to that. But it's a lot about creating personal work. So, I mean, at the greatest level, the guys like Marlon Brando and the guys like Al Pacino, their skin, their hair, their blood is almost able to respond to an imaginary circumstance. Their spine, their nerves. And that's really the goal. And really what it takes is like a lot of work on the character itself, and then a lot of work in personally in your own life, psychologically, as to what you're doing and how you behave and what you respond to. And then putting those two things together. But that's my process.
Look into several methods and find what works for you. And you can do a little